Hey everyone, I'm with Isaac, the co-owner of Jarrah Boy, and we are here to sip on some delicious lager, but also hear the story of Jarrah Boy.
So this was founded by an Indigenous chef named Dale Vicali, so 20 plus years in the industry. He actually grew up in the Gippsland, sort of outside of Melbourne. Left-handed chef, half Italian, half Aboriginal, spicy guy, He's pretty intense, very creative. Obviously a passion for food, and then Indigenous food products, native ingredients. So this was sort of spoken about before COVID really kicked off, and so we sort of parked the bus. Dad moved his family up to Noosa, which is my country. I'm Cubby and Birragubba. And then I've moved back down to Melbourne, which is sort of like his country. So we've done a bit of a swap for some reason. I don't know how I got jibbed out of that. So, but we've experimented in Noosa with a smaller microbrewery. So we try to decide what flavours we want to go for. We wanted something that would appeal to a lot of people as well, but also be high quality craft beer. So we, our first one, which is the Golden Lager, Tirum, which in Cubby means sun, and we actually use the native potato, which is the marnung from Arnhem Lands. So if you didn't know, Australian bush foods products is about a $40 million a year industry, and less than 2% is actually Indigenous owned and operated. So there's a huge issue in the market that people in that community, genuine opportunity to sort of replant what was here before colonisation and be a part of that, and they're sort of missing out. So we saw that a beer at scale could accomplish that, and so we put our sort of money where our mouth is, and we decided with the Golden Lager, our second one, which is red, which is a red lager, and our third drink, which will be black, so the Aboriginal flag essentially.
Yeah, awesome.
We haven't decided on the black one yet. I'm pushing for some sort of stout, but it looks like I'm gonna lose and they're gonna go for a rice lager or something like that. So.
Okay. And this one in front of us, so this is the Tirum.
Yeah, so this is the Tirum. So when we say people that's got a native potato or a yam, a lot of people are like, oh, it's like vodka or something, Yep. So they sort of have a preconceived idea what that is. So a lot of Australian bush food is quite oily, so you can't just chuck that into the mash. You can't just chuck that into the pot. It's going to wreck machinery. It's also probably going to ruin the flavours, that sort of thing. So the way we had to process those native ingredients is quite unique, and it's a little bit of IP involved in that and experimentation. So we started in Noosa, but we actually now brew pretty much all of our lagers with Burnley Brewery, which we're here today using their space. So shout out to Burnley Brewery.
100%.
We sort of bring them down from the territory, and we work with those to put them into the beer. And it actually gives it more of a fuller, sort of taste, and sort of like your everyday sort of summer beer, summer smash.
It is. It's quite a unique flavour as well. Like I have tried both of these. I was lucky to grab a couple of cans a couple of weeks ago, and sat back and enjoyed the Tirum. I found it super just unique in its entire flavour profile, a very refreshing beer as well.
Yeah.
And being 1.2 standards as well,
Yeah.
I feel like having this beautiful colour, but also being on the heavier side is really, really
Yeah,
cool.
that was important to us as well. So we move a lot through tourism and hospitality. So one of our biggest clients are Uluru Resorts. So essentially you have sort of the sun setting on Uluru, people sitting there smashing pots of Tirum, and then we don't realise it's 4.2, so that becomes dangerous. So where our red lager is 3.5, but it's got a fuller taste. I like to equate it to people sort of say, I can taste like that yam potato profile. It reminds me of the lightness, almost the sweetness of like a gnocchi, if you got that little bit of taste. So when you're drinking it, it's light, it's refreshing, you can keep going. Great by itself, sort of thing. And yeah.
Cheers, sorry.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers, man. Sorry, just talking about it, and I'm like, I
Getting
gotta
thirsty
try
up,
it again. Yeah, actually, 100%. It has a beautiful smell to it as well. What kind of food pairings and stuff would you? Because I remember you saying with the red earth that it goes amazing with meat.
Yeah, the red is really good. So Wangor, which is Dale's language for sort of red, we've got native honey from the Jarrah tree. So we get that from Noongar country in WA. We bring that over, we put that in the kettle. So it gives it a really strong sort of profile, which is great for cutting through heavy foods, meats, fatty foods, that sort of thing. Tirum is great with things that are light. It's summer, you're having fish and chips or a bit of salad, and you're having some beers to accompany that. Nice sitting, watching the sunset sort of thing. So it's all about, for us, early in our days, we got approached a lot to build a brewery, and we didn't know what that would look like. Obviously, Dale's a chef. We got that experience on board in the team. A lot of us worked, across hospitality.
Yep.
But we felt like our country is our brewery, is our spiritual home.
Yeah, true.
We felt that the beer is enjoyed essentially out in these unique places. A lot of people send us photos of them up at Rainbow Beach or Kigari or out in the bush, Wilson's Prom, that sort of thing. And that beer just is from country for country. And our motto as well is all Australian beer for all Australians. So we wanted to be a key point of bringing us all together. And I think beer's, Dale
100%.
says the best. Beer's the best thing to do that. Yeah, people drop their guards. People can listen a little bit longer. People are happy to maybe hear things out they probably weren't so staunch on. Yeah.
So I find, some people with like an Indigenous product, it can either be like a deterrent for some people. So having that as your ethos and stuff. And I personally think the next generation, we want to inspire people, to include them and share, knowledge and be able to sip this. It's like you're sipping for one Indigenous product, you're sipping an Australian product.
That's right, yeah.
And we're utilising, these products that are grown in Australia that are unique to here.
Yeah.
So obviously you're going to have a unique product. You're going to have something that people are able to take away, like a bit of a connection as well. I find myself I absolutely love a lot of New Zealand beers.
Yeah.
And starting when I go down that kind of road, you start to identify certain kind of flavor profiles and stuff with certain New Zealand beers and stuff. And it's for me, I can't actually put this in the same category as other Australian beers because I feel like it's so unique. And I think that's the approach of being an Indigenous brand.
Yeah, of course,
and utilising these products, it sits in its own category in a way, to me when I try that, and I absolutely love that about this. I find some gins, they'll be able to utilize those botanicals and stuff, but when I try it in a beer, it's this super refreshing.
So gins it's a beach tree up at Caloundra. They're Indigenous business as well, and they're just phenomenal at extracting those botanicals. Obviously, it's a bit harder to do a beer if you start doing IPAs and pale ales and things that are a bit more out there, and sometimes people think that's more trivial, so they just have maybe one at an occasion, and then they go back to their sort of everyday beer, that they can sort of rely on. And so we really had to sort of take the uniqueness of country and then sort of put that into a beverage that everyone can enjoy. Also the opportunity as well is when I think tourists come here, they say, what's the taste of Australia? What's the taste of the country? And everyone's like, Foster's and 4 and 20, and all those sort of things. And so we're like, okay, how can we do this so people are having this beer on country, like out Uluru or at Peppers and Noosa or wherever it be, over in Carnarvon, wherever they're having a beer and having that experience that when they go back to Canada, the US, and they go, man, do you remember that
I don't want
sensation?
People talking about 4X and stuff and being the VB, the 4X, not to rag on them, but I just don't think that they're a quality product, and you get so gassy and bloated, you know what I mean? After having a couple, whereas I would much rather people try something like your product and have that unique
so people will understand,
you know what I mean?
The freshness really comes from all the healthy microbes that are still retained in those beers. So at a larger scale, a lot of beer pasteurizes the heck out of it, puts preservatives in there to get a longer shelf life, so they can obviously keep the dollars coming in. And over the years, they've obviously developed more preservatives and more ways to get the longevity at the cost of maybe a fraction of the taste. So you see a lot of the older generations, they'll stick, almost like tribalism, they'll stick to a certain brand. And they won't let it go, And so when I've done samplings at Dan Murphy's and different things like that, I find our generation and the Zoomers after us are very interested in, we probably don't drink as much, but when we do, it's quality. It's an experience that we want to pair with food or wherever we are at that venue.
In lockdown, I found myself purposely searching for craft beers because I wanted to have that diverse, but also drink something different every day. But have one because a lot of the crafts that I was trying were on the quite heavier side. So it'd be oh wow, this has 4 standards in it or whatever. But I'm very much a session drinker, so I prefer something like this to session. The Tiram I feel like definitely made.
It's definitely the one, and so people get introduced to beer because it's dad or uncle or whatever, and they go, here's a stock standard product. and people drink it, go, I don't like beer. But so the whole, I think, idea of craft is like getting in there and going, this is an experience, here's the tones, here's the flavors, here's the uniqueness, here's the process of it. You know, European countries have, like Germany, have strict protocols on how like beer's made, and you can't just slap a label and say, it's this beer.
Well, there's
Italians,
like monks, monasteries.
Yeah, like
beers.
Italians with champagne. You can't just slap champagne on there. It has to be a genuine thing from that part of country. And so I think Australia has a really unique position to certify our products as genuine. It can't be replicated because you need the red dirt. You know, you need the volcanic soil up in the Yuyangs. You need certain parts of country that bring the flavors through those ingredients. And I think that's where Australia will eventually migrate to, because, you know, we have Asia and those things at our doorstep. You know, we've got pig face on our beaches, which is like aloe vera.
Well, and that's the thing,
salad,
not many like plants grow actually in such salinity as well. Like whereas in Australia we're quite unique in that aspect. I love hearing how passionate you are as well. Like I feel like you know, you'll be chatting with someone that's like a brand owner and stuff, and it's like, you know, they can sometimes just look at it as, oh, this is my business. But you know, you guys are really onto something to be able to be proud of, like, and like just knowing, you know, what your ingredients are, but also having that passion, you know, I feel like the intergenerational passion of like.
Yeah, certainly. We want to, you know, trailblaze. So for us, keeping the brand 100% Indigenous owned has always been the challenge, because essentially, if you know the market, you know that a brand goes well by themselves, and then a big person comes in and says, I'll give you X, Y, Z for a percentage, and then you sort of lose a bit of that control. So for us, it's important because we holding cultural knowledge and the way that's processed, the way it's harvested. We want to really protect that. We want to create more Indigenous farms across the country as well that aren't just sustenance farming, like you know, looking for truffles and stuff, you know, like just sort of almost kitschy, but something that's sustainable. And it's like an endemic thing to do as well, like to restore
more
country. More Myrtle, like just get it going, you know. Everyone's over lemon myrtle, so no more lemon myrtle. Pause on the lemon myrtle. So yeah, that's what we're sort of doing now.
That's amazing, man. And I guess everyone out there watching, where can we get your products?
Sure. So if you're in Melbourne or in Queensland, so Brisbane, we're in a couple of Dan Murphy's, BWS as well, branching into New South Wales. So that's been an interesting part of the journey, because we mainly focus on keg sales and hospitality tourism venues. Our tap badge is actually an Indigenous sort of clapstick, so it's engraved by a Wiradjuri artist from New South Wales.
I'm gonna pop you've got a photo on your website, I'm gonna pop the photo up now.
It's an awesome photo, and at the venues it's the eye catcher, because people see culture, they see the beer and they go, what is that? And they explain the story of it.
It's something to be proud of too, like that's very individual, like the clapsticks to our culture, like it's...
Yeah, certainly. So it's like the message stick, you know, it's the big... It's just such a statement, and we're changing the narrative. So a lot of us millennial Zoomers, they drink, especially Indigenous people, and so the conversation about that needs to be had. Previous generations treated it like a vice because of, you know, intergenerational trauma, but obviously harder things have come into the environment, drugs, that sort of thing, and our community's been sort of swept away. But now we're like, hang on, we want to take the narrative back and the control back 100%. For our mob and the next generation. So
it's why I make cocktails, man. Like I feel like being able to educate myself firstly, like I grew up drinking goon sacks, you know, like it was like the 16,
we're both from country,
smashing the goon sacks.
Queensland, so that's the rite of passage.
But to be able to now, you know, in my 30s, I've educated myself in like more of refined drinking, and you know, being able to have one nice cocktail, you know, have one nice beer with dinner. Like I feel like when you create a stigma around it, and you're like, I can't do it, that's when it can become that extreme kind of living.
Certainly, growing up, I would go to non-Indigenous friends, so white friends, you know, and they would have a little trolley of alcohol. And I'd be looking at them like, they're alcoholics. They're all alcoholics. But what I didn't understand, it was like horses for courses. So sometimes I feel like a gin and this, or I feel like a beer, or I feel like a wine with my pasta. I didn't really understand that. That didn't exist to me. It was, you drunk because it was medicine. You know, you drunk because it's white man's medicine, you know. And so a lot of that was sort of clawing that back and then changing our own narratives and taking control. You know, that beer, the drinks industry is huge. So if more of our mob can get interjected into that in a meaningful way, then it's gonna really change a lot of things.
Well, we have Green Ant Gin doing very well.
Oh yeah,
as well.
amazing, yeah.
Yeah, so you know, the time is now for Indigenous business to take over.
Get involved. Like, you know, we're just 3% of the population, and we don't represent anything in the economy like that regarding businesses and those things, and we hold the knowledge. So it's exciting times ahead. I think not just on the national scale, but internationally once that opens.
And we can grab these on your website as well, right?
Yeah, you can check out Stockist. We go through shorties as well, so corporates and different groups like that can order. Or if it's big enough, we just deliver direct. We've got partnerships and that sort of thing. So that's the story of Jarrah Boy.
Amazing, man. Thank you so much.
No worries, thanks.
Absolute pleasure. And cheers, guys. You got to try one. You will seriously be so impressed. Send me, just a couple of photos after you try the beer. Let me know what you think as well. But thank you so much, mate.
Thank you.
And cheers to Burnley Brewers for having us. Woo!